From Paris Island, South Carolina, weighing 305 pounds, Sergeant Slaughter.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of All the WrestleManias, the podcast. I'm your co-host, Tim Hackman.
And I'm Rich Sigwald.
And we're excited to be back with you here today. We hope you enjoyed our recent episodes. We did a preview of WrestleMania 38, and then we did a recap episode of all of our predictions, just so we could run down just how terribly, terribly wrong we were on that.
Yeah,
so we hope you enjoyed our massive failures on a grand scale. And we also put out our WrestleMania 20 episode just last week. And so we're excited now to get into another historic show for you. We had a listener request from Nick. Nick asked if we would take a look back at WrestleMania VII. You may remember Nick also asked us to look at WrestleMania 8 maybe a few weeks back, which we did, and we were glad we did. So we're glad that Nick is listening and enjoying the old shows, and he's got good taste because this is actually another pretty good one.
Yeah, this is a sleeper mania here, I think. I think that's a good term for it.
Yeah, we had watched this one for the blog and did a write-up for the blog for it, and I kind of had forgotten a bunch of it, actually. So this was a nice surprise.
This has a lot of the classic elements of WrestleMania going for it, with like the glitzy celebrities ringside and stuff like that, and all the big names are there in the ring and outside of the ring. So it's a fun one to watch, and it's an interesting one to watch too, because there is some controversy with it about. It was supposed to be at the LA Coliseum, but they didn't sell enough tickets, so they moved it to the LA Sports Arena, and then they still had to give away supposedly about 6,000 seats. And when you listen to the crowd, it sounds like they went to all their kindergartens and elementary schools and daycares and gave out these tickets. And you just see a bunch of dads and their kids in the audience that were probably sent to this by their moms.
Get out of the house. Take the kids to wrestling or something.
Yeah, Jesus, get out of here.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of shrieking in this one. But, you know, the children are the future, so, or something like that, I think.
The Attitude Era is being born in the audience right here.
So, yeah, this is definitely a classic. This is way back from March 24th, 1991. Again, from the Los Angeles Memorial Sports Arena in Los Angeles, California. We'll talk a little bit about the change of venue too. The attendance for this one is listed at 16,158, and the tagline on this one is "Superstars and Stripes Forever." Very patriotic. Runtime on this one is 3 hours and 30 minutes on the dot, so it's getting kind of long, but it's sub 4 hours, which we always appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, how else do you celebrate America? And you can't do that under 3 hours. So
it's true.
You gotta stretch it out and have lots of big meaty guys beating on each other,
just like the founders intended.
Exactly.
So, speaking of America, we start out with the one and only Willie Nelson singing "America the Beautiful." My thesis is that Willie Nelson is America's greatest living jazz singer, because his phrasing is impeccable. He's always like just behind the beat. He's like super cool. He's like too cool to like hit on the beat. You know, he's got that jazz phrasing down. And I love everything that Willie Nelson has ever sung, even the shitty ones with Kermit the Frog. So I was flipping out for Willie here.
Yeah, this is maybe the best musical opening of all the WrestleManias. It is significantly better than the guy that opened up Saturday of WrestleMania 38. I don't know what the hell happened there, but Willie comes in and he kills it here. It gets you fired up, and I'd imagine if this was, all the grown men in 1991 sitting in that arena drinking Budweiser, thinking about the troops and tying yellow ribbons around everything, Willie Nelson just gave them a hard on.
I was going to go with brought a tear to their eye, but whatever works for you. Gorilla Monsoon, yes, and Bobby Heenan, double yes, are on announcing duties here. Heenan has a couple of sort of on stage roles as as a heel manager. So whenever he's otherwise engaged, there's a succession of guest commentators. Hacksaw Jim Duggan starts out the night. Lord Alfred Hayes comes in at one point, and Regis Philbin is there for the main event, with varying results, I would say. The first guest announcer that we get is Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He's dressed up like Uncle Sam. I just kind of this is after Rocky IV came out, so he should know what happens to guys who dress up like Uncle Sam and parade around like that. We remember what happened to Apollo Creed, right?
Really, his outfit and his like talking and stuff like that really reminded me of that Matthew Lesko guy. There's free money, and he has like the question marks all over him, kind of dressed like the Riddler. But like for some reason, something with Hacksaw Jim Duggan in this getup triggered a memory of him for me, and I don't know why. I think it's just the suit and the loud talking, and that Hacksaw has no future in color commentary whatsoever.
No. He's here because Bobby Heenan is down at the ring for the first match, which includes Haku and Barbarian, who are two members of his stable. So we start out with a promo with Marty Gianetti and Shawn Michaels, the Rockers. They're back there with Sean Mooney. Every time now that I see Sean Mooney, I just think about Mr. Perfect yelling, "Shut up, Mooney!" at him.
Mooney.
that guy was freaking amazing. Anything you want to say about that promo before we get to the match?
Marty Gianetti is the better talker.
He is.
Shawn Michaels here. But it's still a really generic promo. It's just, I'm going to come out and beat you, like kind of thing. So, but yeah, Gianetti was far more engaging.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting.
Team Gianetti.
So the first match here is the Rockers, again, Shawn Michaels and Marty Gianetti versus Haku and the Barbarian with Bobby the Brain Heenan. Where do you want to start with this one?
The shrieking little kids for the Rockers. Oh my God.
So many shrieking kids.
I had to turn the volume on the TV down. It was so much. And it was also interesting that crowd seemed hotter for Marty Gianetti than they did for Shawn Michaels. I guess they could already smell the future coming with Shawn Michaels here, that he was going to be an asshole soon. And, they're right. So they got to love Marty Gianetti.
Yeah, I think if Marty had killed Shawn when he had the chance, he'd be out on parole by now. And just think of all the untold suffering that we would have all been saved. So Bret Hart might still be, might have been wrestling into the 2000s. Wouldn't have ended up with brain damage from freaking Bill Goldberg. I really love seeing Haku here.
Yeah.
He looks like such a badass. He's one of those guys who has a reputation for being like one of the legit toughest guys in wrestling for years and years. I don't really remember how he got teamed up with the Barbarian, who was usually with the Warlord, but the Warlord has another match coming up later, so I wasn't following.
The Barbarian and Haku are both Polynesian. The Barbarian, I think, is Samoan, and Haku is from Tonga, I believe.
I think it's the other way around.
Or the other way around, one or the other.
Yeah.
And it's really funny. I never really liked him as Haku. God, I loved him as Ming in WCW. And I don't know if it's just the way that like WCW booked him better or something, but like I always found Haku just kind of But like Ming, he was scary in WCW and just come out and beat the crap out of guys. And I just really loved him like that.
No, he's a legit badass, and I think as much as I didn't necessarily understand why they were together, I thought he and Barbarian actually make a pretty good, impressive tag team, because they're both just two absolute units. They whoop on poor Marty for a long, long time. Marty sort of plays the Ricky Morton role. He and Haku do a sort of like double crossbody thing. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, that was
painful.
Yeah,
really painful. I don't know if do you think that was a botch, or do you think that was planned that way?
I think it was planned, but I think there was a bit more contact to it than they intended.
Yeah, it was stiff.
And there was definitely some ribs crashing into each other in that spot.
Yeah, and then there's another spot where Marty sort of tries a crossbody off the second rope, but the Barbarian reverses it and flips it around into a power slam. And I just wrote down, sweet Jesus. He really cleans his clock.
Yeah, he was biting the dust on that one. And Danny Davis was doing a terrible job of keeping this match under control. I don't know what was going on there either, but this match breaks down a couple times into chaos.
I just remember Danny Davis from his Dangerous Danny Davis thing and his evil ref thing, and some shenanigans. I think it was involving the British Bulldogs, right? Is that
Yeah.
right? He's turning on people, and if you can't trust professional wrestling referees, who can you trust?
They're the backbone of society. And
It's
if
true.
they're not honest, then there's no hope for any of us.
Yeah, they're the postal service of the entertainment industry.
Well, I mean, the Rockers got the win here.
Yeah, they
So-
did. There's some super impressive moves in this match, actually. And it's a good sort of mix of, the kind of smaller, faster guys on the Rockers, and then, of course, there's two beefcakes throwing people around. So I think it's sort of a classic Rockers match, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like every other Rockers match.
Yeah.
But they got the win in this one. So,
Yeah, they lost a lot.
yeah.
All right, moving on. So we're back in the locker room. Mean Gene is there with tonight's celebrity guests. So we've got Regis Philbin, we've got Marla Maples, and we've got Alex Trebek. So 1, 2, 3 out of 4 people in this segment are dead. Hang in there, Marla Maples.
Regis, you're beautiful. That's that line comes out of Mean Gene out of nowhere, and it's just delightful. Did we talk about in the blog that my theory that this is where possibly Donald Trump and Marla Maples met? Because Donald Trump's in the front row. He's in ringside for this as just an attending member, audience member. And Marla Maples is in the show, and we know that they have a relationship at some point here, a little later after this.
Yeah, seems entirely possible,
WrestleMania bringing lovers together.
Yeah. It's like, I had a good time with this bit, actually. Regis said he's had all the major stars on his show, except for the earthquake, because the earthquake scares him.
Yeah.
And then Mean Gene says, my very, very dear close friend, Alex Trebek. And then Alex calls him Jim.
Yes.
I love it. Suck it, Trebek. Yeah.
And then they go into an Abbott and Costello bit, which was
Yeah.
kind of funny.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich versus Dino Bravo, who's got Jimmy Hart in his corner. And we don't see that much of the Von Erichs in the WWF. They were sort of, more of a territory stable right down in Texas.
Yeah, they were running their own thing, the World Class Championship Wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah, a whole family affair. But it's kind of cool to see him here. So
is this the only Von Erich on WrestleMania that we see? I'm trying to think.
It might be close. Kerry might pop up in one more. I have to check our notes, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll check, and then I'll do a special report and break in and interrupt myself talking to say that I'm horribly wrong, as I have started doing when editing these episodes.
Well, it shows our integrity,
Yeah, we'll try to.
We don't try to sweep our mistakes under the rug here at all the WrestleManias.
Rich was correct. Kerry Von Erich is the only Von Erich to appear in WWF and was the Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? I mean,
I was a huge Dino Bravo fan growing up when I was around this time period, and I'm still shook by the day. So he's the one that premiered Earthquake in WWF. Ultimate Warrior and Dino Bravo are arguing over who's stronger, because Dino Bravo claims to be the world's strongest man, and Ultimate Warrior is like, look at me, I'm crazy. And so they challenge each other to a push-up competition. And Jimmy Hart says, well, this isn't exciting enough. We should do it with somebody on your back. And so Earthquake is a plant in the audience about 3 rows back, and they pull him out of the audience. And as Ultimate Warrior gets down in the push-up pose and Earthquake goes to sit on his back, Earthquake drops down his full weight on the Ultimate Warrior, crushing him. I felt so betrayed and so angry.
Yeah. That's a pretty good gimmick, I gotta say. I like that angle a lot. So I'm not actually sure why they're feuding here. Dino is super buffed, but he's very slow. Kerry looks like an absolute athlete. He's very fast. There's some good stuff, there's some chops. There's Kerry does this side suplex thing that was really tough looking. There's a hammer from the second rope, which I always appreciate.
This match was done quick. I'm not sure if it was this Dino was gassed, because this is pretty much near the end of his active career. I felt like something weird happened with the ending of this match.
Yeah, Kerry wraps it up with a spinning tornado, which is basically a super punch, and gets the win in 3 minutes and 11 seconds, and then they're off.
Yeah, they're pretty much done.
Here's one of my favorite promos coming up, actually, and I think we spent a long time talking about this on the blog. So the Warlord and Slick are backstage. Warlord is wearing like a silver, like Destro mask from G.I. Joe, except it's like clearly plastic, and he's also got this like black plastic armor that makes him look like the troopers in Spaceballs.
Yeah, I put down that he looks like he's in his Spaceballs bondage armor.
He looks ridiculous, and he's got a stick, like a metal rod that has a W on the top of it, 'cause for Warlord, obviously,
Yeah, obviously.
or maybe it's for winter, for whatever. Maybe it's for whatever.
I don't know where he's the warlord at, but
I don't know.
he's the warlord.
John Carter, Warlord of Mars. So he spends a long time talking up his full Nelson, which is probably the most boring finish in pro wrestling. If that were my finishing move, I certainly wouldn't talk about it. I would just kind of I'd be like, yeah, I wrestle, I have to do the full Nelson.
Bobby Lashley's going to come beat you up now.
Yeah, he can try with that weak ass full Nelson.
I wouldn't call his full Nelson weak ass. I don't think you're going to be happy if you're placed in it by him.
Well, I mean, whatever. I ain't afraid of Bobby Lashley. Put that on the promo.
Is Bobby Lashley the new warlord?
He needs to get himself some plastic armor. Then people would take him seriously.
And he needs to end every promo with, "We ain't found shit." That
would be nice. And we get another promo with Davey Boy Smith and Matilda the Bulldog.
The pupper. What a cutie pupper.
With Mean Gene. Yeah, she's chonky. She's beautiful. I would definitely pet. Davey kind of gets down in her face, and she clearly doesn't like it.
No.
She's not that kind of pup.
It's not his dog.
Yeah. There's a lot of stories about some of the bad shit they did to Matilda. I always sort of feel bad for the animals in pro wrestling. We're not going to dwell on the sad stuff. Hopefully Matilda got some treats.
I hope so. I noted that this was just like two meaty guys pounding on each other is really what this match is. It's kind of impressive because we get to see actually how fast the British Bulldog was. So like a lot of times Dynamite Kid was known as the fast one in their tag team. But like Bulldog's got moves and he's all over the place. Davey Boy can hustle.
Yeah, he's really fast, and they're both incredibly strong. This match has lots of like typical big guy moves. The standing elbow drops, a bear hug. There's a chin lock that lasts for like an hour. I kept thinking that the ring was going to collapse every time they both sort of took some of those big bumps. Yeah. Like they're massive.
They were doing a great job of getting that ring bouncing for them, which was really, really impressive. Warlord gets Bulldog in the full Nelson.
Oh,
I don't think he locks his hands. And that's always the big thing. Like if he can lock his hands, I mean, anytime that any kind of hold is put on, it's always like, if he locks his hands, it's over with. So he couldn't lock his hands, but like British Bulldog slams his arms down really hard and it breaks the hold. And it's really impressive looking. And then Bulldog gets him up in a power slam. And if you watch carefully in that power slam, Bulldog actually lets go of him and is just balancing the Warlord on his shoulder while running. What? Wow.
Yeah. No, it's insane.
You are super strong, dude. Because like the Warlord's no lightweight. Like,
no, he's probably close to 300 pounds easily.
Yeah, he's not throwing Rey Mysterio Jr. around here.
Yeah.
This is another beefcake guy.
Yeah, it's incredible. He takes like 3, maybe 4, like running steps with him up like that, and then flips him over. The other move that I took note of is right before the full Nelson is the Warlord goes from standing like completely still to throwing Davey in a belly to belly like textbook with like no strain at all. Like he looks like he barely even flexed his knees. Like it's ugh.
They help each other with these things, but they did a really great job of hiding that they were doing that. And that's just because both of them are so fucking strong. They can just throw each other around, no problem.
Yeah, that's a really strong match, actually. I enjoyed this one quite a bit. I didn't have a whole lot of expectations. I did remember watching it from when we wrote it up for the blog, and I remember that power slam especially as being just god-awful impressive, so...
Yeah, because like they both bounce off the ring when they land.
They're massive. So Davey Boy gets the win there. He tries to celebrate with Matilda. She's not really into it. I hope she got some milk bones afterwards. So, all right, next up we got another promo setting up the Nasty Boys versus Hart Foundation match. And so there's a promo with the Nasty Boys and Jimmy Hart and Mean Gene. There's not a whole lot to say. I do just noted that I just remember the Nasty Boys being so over, so huge for like 10 minutes. Like I feel like they were on every damn episode of Superstars of Wrestling.
They delivered an amazing, I think it was Knobs delivers the amazing line of referring to the Hart Foundation as the stinking pink.
Can you say that on television?
Barely.
Yeah.
If he would have said stink in the pink.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. But stinking pink, that's fine.
I mean, I don't know if it's fine, but yeah.
I also like that Jimmy Hart is wearing a matching Nasty Boys helmet.
Yeah, he looks great.
Yeah,
and he's got a airbrushed leather jacket on too. It's super badass. So, and then there's a Hart Foundation. I don't know what they said, but Anvil is he's a fucking head case, like that guy.
Nasty Boys. That's basically all I heard.
That's a good impression. Yeah. I love him so much. All right, this is
great.
This is a WWF Tag Team Championship match. Speaking of freaking strong, Anvil is one of those guys too. Like every time you see him, I'm like, holy hell. So I don't know if there's any moments here in this particular match, but
he's got that big barrel chest.
Yeah.
He can hug a refrigerator and lift it,
The crowd is going absolutely bananas through this whole thing. But it's all those little kid screams.
Yeah. I noted that I think Brett ate a bit of a potato early from Skaggs. But I mean, it didn't seem to affect anything. There was a weird moment too when like Skaggs got in the ring. Well, he left the ring and then just so that he could get flipped back into the ring by Brett. So like you see him walk through the ropes and then Brett walks over to the ropes and does the phony baloney slingshot thing, the flip him back in. But it was very clear that he only left the ring to do that. The match is a lot of brawling. I mean, that's what you would expect from the Nasty Boys, really. But again, Brett and Anvil look at home in that kind of match too, just as much as any kind of technical match. And it was exciting to see Brett and Anvil do that finisher where like Anvil holds the guy on his lap and Brett like clotheslines him at full speed.
That's a great finisher.
Yeah, it's kind of badass.
What the hell was that thing called? I know it's
remember.
got a cool name. It's, like something else for the research department.
The Heart Attack. Yeah, and Bobby Heenan mocks the shit out of Gorilla Monsoon's like scientific body part like commentary. He says at one point he goes, "There's one to the cervical part of your back." And Gorilla's like, "Will you stop it?"
No, those two are like an old married couple. I love it. I think my favorite moment for this one is when Brett makes the hot tag to Anvil, and then Anvil comes in and cleans house, and he just freaking picks up one of the guys and throws him at the other guy.
Yeah, he just picks up Knobs and throws him at Sags. Like,
is that a move? Are you allowed to do that?
Now the Nasty Boys are a bit smaller than what they are later in their careers, but they're still big dudes.
Yeah.
And like Anvil just picks him up like it's not a problem and throws him like a bag of groceries onto the counter into Sags. Like,
that was great. I love it. So they hit that finisher. Then, unfortunately, Earl Hebner gets distracted and Anvil gets brained with the megaphone. And then the Nasty Boys get the pin. And then Jimmy rolls around making out with the belt, which in one of the more uncomfortable WrestleMania moments I think I've seen in a while.
Yeah, this finish was a genuine surprise. I had forgotten that the Hart Foundation lose to the Nasty Boys here. And actually, this is the end of the Hart Foundation. This is where Brett goes off to go solo.
That's right. You're right. Well, I thought it had to be around here because they've split up from Jimmy Hart, right? And he was their main guy. So I figured it must have been coming, but oh well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they did anything in kayfabe to break them up. I think they just separated them, and Brett becomes Intercontinental Champ pretty quick and stuff like that. So, because it's SummerSlam of this year where Brett wins the title, IC title from Mr. Perfect,
right?
The best wrestling match of all time.
Yeah, we're gonna have to watch that SummerSlam here and talk about it real soon because that one it's burning a hole in my pocket. I've watched it so many times. I'm ready to like get into it on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I'm excited to talk about this next one. Actually,
Yeah.
Jake the Snake Roberts versus the model Rick Martel in a blindfold match. So we get a long kind of video recap of this one. And this is, you talked one of these episodes about wrestling moments that are kind of seared into your brain. Like this is one for me. So Martel sprays Jake in the eyes with his like perfume atomizer thing, which is really just an insecticide sprayer that's painted like purple. The best joke about all that is that the perfume is called Arrogance, which makes me laugh. So he sprays him in the eyes, and then Jake comes out, in a series of interviews. This is all recapped on the WrestleMania, where he's wearing like bandages and sunglasses. And he comes out on Brother Love's show one time. He's wearing a sweet ass Cosby sweater, and he's blinded, but Martel attacks him, and he grabs Brother Love thinking it's Martel and like DDTs him, and his sunglasses fall off strategically, and we see his damaged eye, and he's like pointing at it and cursing and spitting, and like I remember seeing that as a kid. It just freaked me out. Like I honestly thought he was blinded. I was a dumb kid, but it's clearly now when you look at it, it's like a foggy contact lens.
Yeah. It's such a great moment, though.
No, it's so good. It's so good.
Jake is so great. He's just such a talent. And then he cuts a promo too right before this match after the recap. And there's a great line that he says, "Even a fool knows a man only has 5 senses, but a snake has 6. We always do it best in the dark."
That's amazing.
And then his theme music hits, which is just so hot. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you referred to it on the blog as auditory Viagra.
Yeah, it really is, especially when right before it, he delivers that line of like, "But a snake has 6, we always do it best in the dark," and then that theme hits. And he gets a huge pop too from the audience when his theme hits.
Lots of those wives are getting lucky tonight when their husbands come back from the field trip with the 40 children.
Yeah, they're getting it because they're just like, "I'm Jake. You want to see my snake?"
It has 6 senses.
Yeah.
And 6 sides.
And it does it in the dark.
My dick is a hexagon. Oh, sorry. No, so the gimmick here is that they're both going to be in blindfolds because, he's blinded Jake, and therefore Martel also has to be blinded. It doesn't really follow, but you can see when they put the hoods on, like you can see that they can see, but
yeah, the camera gets a little too close and you can see the spot in the fabric of the hood where it's a little thinner so at least Jake can see. You can very clearly see that Jake can see through it. You would hope that they gave the same one to Rick Martel, but maybe not.
Although, fuck Rick Martel, because he turned on Tito. Do I have to bring this up every episode? He turned on Tito Santana. He broke up the Can-Am connection. He walked out of the ring and just left Tito there to get his ass kicked. He is a horrible human being. I hope every day of his is bad. I hope it rains every time he washes his car. I hope he sits on his favorite sunglasses.
Yeah, and like if Rick Martel was modern, instead of like modern day, instead of an atomizer, he would totally have a vape pen. And he would blow vape in people's faces. That's what Rick Martel would do.
Yeah. This episode brought to you by vaping. It's like smoking, but douchier. Vaping. So I'll admit this is one of those like gimmick matches that sounds really dumb, and it is really dumb. But you put this thing in front of a crowd, especially a crowd of preschoolers or whatever they are that day, and immediately like they get it, right? They're helping Jake play hot and cold basically to find Martel.
Yeah.
So they're going around the ring kind of strategically, just barely like backing into each other like they're like Scooby-Doo and Fred or whatever. And there's some really great moments. I had a good time watching this.
There's some good suspense in it. My only criticism of it was maybe 30 seconds too long. Maybe one less collision in the ring leading to the finish would have been better, I think, personally. But I really enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun to watch. It was fun to hear and see all the crowd like just getting into it and like really working the heat. Like you can see that Jake is doing like the hot and cold, but then when Martel tries to do it, the crowd won't help him. It's so great. Like the
Good.
crowd goes quiet, like, and he's getting no assistance in trying to find Jake.
Suck it, Martel.
And then Jake crushes the atomizer after the match, which was
Yeah.
spectacularly great.
It's sort of a sudden thing. It's kind of like he gets put in the Boston Crab, which was Martel's move, and he like kicks out and he like finds his way back to him. He just kind of grabs him. It's like a snake striking.
Yeah, it's that sixth sense.
That's right.
Doing it in the dark.
And afterwards he puts the snake on Martel, of course, who flips out.
Yeah.
He was being touched
Classic.
by Jake's. Yeah, amazing match. I had a good time. Let's see who's up next. Oh yeah, this is the Undertaker with Pallbearer
Yeah.
versus Jimmy Superfly Snuka. This is the Undertaker's WrestleMania debut.
Match number 1.
Yeah, so we don't even have a streak yet because we've only having one match.
He's not even the Phenom yet. Gorilla Monsoon calls Jimmy Snuka a Phenom.
Oh really?
At the start of this match. I think that was interesting. I wonder if maybe because Undertaker wins this match, he switches that title over to the Undertaker.
Maybe. Yeah, Snuka's a little bit past his prime here. This is classic Western Undertaker for Rich's viewing pleasure.
Yeah. And
the kids in that crowd look legit scared when he comes
they're
out.
Terrified. They're like crying. It's great.
I love it.
And I'm pretty sure like the Undertaker triggered a lot of goth phases for the kids in this show because they're like looking so serious and confused. At least the ones that they're showing on camera, like all of those kids probably go home and they're trying on their mom's eyeliner after this, and like I think I just want to wear black.
Just yelling at their stepdad. You're not my dad, Greg.
Get out of my room.
I want to listen to The Cure.
Get out. I want to be sad. I want something to make
Hot Topic
me
was
sad.
actually founded in California right after the end of this match.
Yeah.
Like, they just went right out to the local mall and started Hot Topic.
Wallets just instantly grew chains at this point.
Nice. Well, so Snuka's job here is to put the Undertaker over. That's what he does. It's a short match.
He does a great job. Yeah, it's pretty short. Snuka gets a little bit of offense in, but the Undertaker's is unrelenting. It's the old school Undertaker. He doesn't rush because he's already dead. He's got all the time in the world. And so he just hunts Snuka down. At one point, Bobby Heenan asks, "What are those gray rubber gloves for?" And then there's this silence in the commentary. And then Gorilla goes, "I guess he likes wearing gloves."
Because that's the best he could do?
Yeah.
Gorilla.
The tombstone the tombstone that Undertaker lands on Snuka too is very vicious. He gets it's the old tombstone, so he jumps a little before landing, and you can definitely see that Snuka's head makes a little bit of contact with the mat. Snuka was probably a little dizzy after that one.
That's beautiful. Well, so if you haven't caught our WrestleMania 20 episode, there's the return of the sort of classic Western era Undertaker at that match and against Kane, and we kind of flipped out over it. So take a listen back to that episode if you're into the Undertaker, and if you're into hearing Rich do his Pallbearer impression, you can catch that one.
Yeah, sorry, you're gonna have to go download it. I'm not gonna do it for you now.
Yeah, well, you don't want to overexpose it,
No, I guess he likes wearing gloves.
That's an amazing answer. Amazing. You could have gone, so he doesn't get the whatever fluids, throw some medical terms in there, or so he doesn't leave fingerprints,
or like doesn't get formaldehyde on his skin, or he's got to crack the jaws to get them smiling in their casket or something like that. Like, no, I guess he likes wearing gloves.
Oh, well, he's Gorilla. He couldn't be brilliant all the time. So next up, we've got this is a good one. I'm excited about this one. This is the Ultimate Warrior versus the Macho Man Randy Savage with Queen Sherry.
Yeah, and the recap is spectacular. It shows the tamest part, but Sherry before this has like a very interesting confrontation with the Ultimate Warrior where she tries to seduce him. And basically through her entire talking, she slowly gets on her knees in front of him and gets very close to the area. I would probably call it a fallacious pose.
Yeah.
And so like the recap that they show isn't very, it doesn't really cover it, but like if you go and watch the show that's from, it's highly erotic and some of Sherry's best work.
Yeah. It it's very suggestive. We've talked about this pretty much every time she shows up, honestly. She is like a freaking treat. Like she is always working her ass off. She is always like screaming her head off and selling and just she's amazing. She's amazing. Like I don't know. I sort of, when I was a kid and we would watch these, I was just kind of annoyed with her, right? But like now as I'm watching, I'm like, holy cow, this lady knew how to freaking work. And there's no exception here.
Yeah. And so we also get the showing and the recap where Macho Man brains the Ultimate Warrior at the Royal Rumble, causing Warrior to lose to Sergeant Slaughter, which will set up our main event for the show. And that hit that like Macho Man uses his scepter, that hit looked very snug if it wasn't like actual like contact. And recently I've been listening to a lot of and reading a lot of things in the wrestling world talking about just how shitty the Ultimate Warrior was to work with. And I couldn't help but to wonder if like Macho Man really hits him just because of Ultimate Warrior being so shitty.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe just had enough of him, right? Just clock this guy in the head with a scepter.
And then after the recap, the camera finds Miss Elizabeth in the audience.
Uh-oh. Like sands through the hourglass. These are the days of our lives. Yeah, we know something's going to go down. So she and Macho Man have been estranged while he's been the Macho King to Sherry's queen. And so, could it be? Could we see a reunion here? I don't know.
Right. Have they been estranged since WrestleMania 5 at this point? Because that's when like Macho and Hogan had their big blow up over her. I'm trying to remember the storyline, but I think that might have been. So this might be like 2-year payoff here on this.
I mean, and it's a big one. We'll talk about it in a second here. So I say, both Macho Man and Warrior look like $1 million. They come out in all their WrestleMania finest. Warrior has his bitchin' like duster with his face airbrushed on the back.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool. Let's see if I can get away with that.
And he doesn't run to the ring either, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, what that's all about. So this match is a circus, as you might expect. But Sherry really is the MVP. She's like, she's attacking Warrior with her high heels. She's raking the back. She's throwing punches. She's taking bumps. She's pounding on the apron. She's screaming her head off. She's distracting the ref. She's all doing all of this in an evening gown, shaking her ass in the camera. She's like, she's practically the whole show, and that that's saying something considering there's Macho Man in the ring too.
And yet the kids in the crowd are chanting Hogan, Hogan, Hogan.
Fuck those kids.
I know. God damn it. Yeah, like Macho Man is like standing there like he's a human visiting the zoo, and Ultimate Warrior is definitely acting like the gorilla behind the glass. Like like Macho Man is just chilling in the ring, and like Warrior jumps up on the apron and he's like shaking it and bashing it. Like the dude is out of control. You can really like feel the hatred for Sherry and Macho Man, and like, oh, it's just so good.
Yeah, they were gigantic heels, so everybody hated those two. Who does he think he is, coming out there like a Macho King, and with his queen, he turned his back on Miss Elizabeth. This is a solid match. Like Warrior, whatever. We've talked about his limitations here, but like the way that this is all put together is really kind of impressive. The sort of coup de grace or whatever you want to call it, I don't know. So when Macho goes up to the top for 5 flying elbows in a row, onto a prone Warrior, that's unbelievable. Like, but when he starts going up for the third one, you're like, oh man, I can't believe he's going to do this 3 times, and then he goes back to it and back to it. Like, I was reaching for the alcohol at that point.
And you can see just how fast Macho Man could climb the ropes. I feel like people don't talk about that enough. Like if you watch him climb the ropes compared to any other person now or then, he's just up there suddenly. He's just there. and like he's 2 steps and he's on the top rope. So like he just steps onto the second rope, and then he's got put its next foot onto the top rope, and he's there and he's ready to jump, and it's insane.
Yeah, he sprints up that bad boy. So I mean, he was a legit athlete, right? He was a baseball player. He was always in amazing shape. He was, at least in his WWF days, he was never like one of those guys that got so muscular or so out of shape that he couldn't do that kind of thing. So
I also love that whether he was heel or when he was face, Savage did the same tactics. He never changed. It's so great. Hold the ropes, sneak things in his trunks and punch somebody, run out of the ring, run around. Nope. Doesn't matter if he's good guy or bad guy. He's doing that stuff.
Grab the tights. Don't forget to grab the tights.
Oh, yeah. Got to grab the tights. That's the only way he knew how to pin people.
Yeah. So this is a really good match, but the after party here is where it's at, obviously.
Yeah.
Sherry's disgusted with Randy for losing and starts attacking him. She's like just kicking the shit out of him with her bare feet. And you can see Elizabeth kind of looking on from the crowd with growing concern. And of course the camera is like hovering on her. So it's not like, obviously something's going to happen, right?
Well, I mean, this is a loser ends their career match. This is a career match. So either Warrior or Macho Man need to retire after this. Yeah, she turns on his ass and just like is beating the crap out of him in the ring. Sherry's not having it. She's very disappointed after Macho Man suffers Ultimate Warrior's dumbest finisher in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth comes down and saves him. She gets out of the audience. She can't take it. She can't see her man devastated any longer. He comes down to the ring and saves him, chases Sherry away. And then we get that epic picture of Macho Man holding Elizabeth up. She's just sitting on one of his shoulders like a parrot. Like it's such an adorable scene.
He's got the one taped finger. His hands all taped. He's got his one finger up in the air. It's a beautiful. They show some women in the crowd are losing their shit.
They are
like
crying,
bawling. It's like it's a Lifetime movie on steroids.
They are crying and ovulating at the same time. Like they're just so worked up.
All of their children went on to own Hot Topics.
Yeah. We talk a lot about Sherry, but I think we need to talk about Elizabeth just a little bit here. That Elizabeth, I don't know about you, but Elizabeth always came off to me as like an outsider. Like she wasn't really a wrestler. She was this Macho Man's loving, caring wife, and just like not someone in the wrestling industry. Like Sherry, all right, well, she's a valet, she's a wrestler. Like no, Elizabeth always just felt like Macho Man's wife coming down to watch him ringside to support him. Like she was just like an outside presence, and that everything was completely real. And I think she did a great job with that.
Yeah, she actually does some really good acting here. She doesn't really say anything. She does it kind of all with gesture. It's almost like mime, like pantomime or something. But she's all emotional. She's like trying to touch him, trying to sort of soothe him. After he's getting his ass kicked, he sort of like kind of throws her off. He thinks it's still Sherry. I don't know why she would be touching him gently after just whooping his ass with her shoes, but finally he realizes it's her, and the crowd is like, was it really her? Or he's like, was it really her? And the crowd is like, yes. And then no, it's great. And the thing with Elizabeth too is that he always he sort of doted on her, he put her on his pedestal, but he also kind of treated her like shit, right? He was like super jealous, he was super possessive. He always made her hold the ropes for him. So at the end of this one, he sort of pushes her back and holds the ropes for her so she can climb through. So, maybe they're going to be more equal partners after this. Somehow I doubt it.
It's the ultimate face turn. He turns completely super face after years of being heel and always at least being chauvinist, even when face. Like him and Hogan were both faces together, but he was still kind of a dick to Elizabeth. But now he's a changed man. He's learned his ways.
Saved by the love of a good woman.
Yeah.
Every time.
Also during this area, you can spot that super fan Vladimir. He's ringside. You can spot him ringside. The one that they made the documentary about that now
Yeah.
WWE is never going to be released. You can see him very clearly ringside, and he is jacked. He's got super arms. He's in a tank top. Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. I hope they put that documentary out one day.
I do too.
I like thinking about like this guy like a Zelig, or like a Forrest Gump, just there for all these amazing moments throughout wrestling history.
Chasing glory, like he's a wrestling what are they called?
Oh,
Rock stars
groupie.
and stuff. Groupie, like he's the wrestling groupie.
Yeah. I don't think he was. You don't think Vladimir was trying to fuck, do you? Like,
No, but I mean, he might be their muse or something. That, like
maybe.
He's like Penny Lane in that Almost Famous movie.
All right, I think we're getting way off topic here, but
Yeah.
anyway,
Anyways,
good match. The ladies really kind of take the show there. Elizabeth and Queen Sherry both departed now, unfortunately, and both I think underappreciated for just the quality of their performances.
absolutely.
So while the crowd mops up after that match and gets all their tissues together and rubs the puffs with lotion on their nose, it's time for a comedy promo. So we've got the Undertaker and Pallbearer with Regis. This is a great sort of classic Undertaker promo. Did you like this one?
Oh yeah, this one is classic Undertaker. Like Regis is trying to interview him, but all the Undertaker is doing is measuring him and reciting numbers to Pallbearer. Like measuring his height and his shoulders and his arm length and stuff like that, so that he can get Regis ready for his coffin. I mean,
is it for the coffin, or is it for the suit he's going to put on him to go in the coffin?
it's probably for both. It's probably for both. Be honest. Yeah,
he's a talented guy. So he's a carpenter and a tailor.
This one's very memorable and always shows up in like those promos and
it's fun.
Vignettes and stuff.
So Regis kind of hams it up with them. He throws it to Alex. Alex is there with Demolition and Master Fuji. They scare him. And he throws it back to Regis, who's with the Japanese wrestlers who are coming up next. They won't respond because, the joke is they don't speak English. And then Regis starts yelling like Japanese car brands at them.
Yeah, it's very tasteful.
They want to know where Kathy Lee is. That's the only question that they can ask in English.
That's good. Yeah. Then Bobby Heenan, after that, delivers the line, we know how to take care of law and order here in LA, if you know what I mean.
Yikes.
Yeah. So we have like all the racism happening at once here suddenly at this WrestleMania. It's pretty spectacular.
It's nice of him to try to fit it all into like, one little section of the show.
Yeah. This is a racist part. Enjoy.
and now a little racist interlude. So, in case you're wondering about that line, just look up some things that happened in 1991 in the Los Angeles area. Wikipedia is probably a good thing to check out.
Yeah, I mean it continues a little more later, but that's the big one right there.
The other there's also Jake the Snake and Damien the Python there with Alex. Alex doesn't like the snake, but Damien does watch Jeopardy, is what we've learned. Reptiles of the world is his favorite category. I don't know if that was real. I don't think Jake would lie to us, but I don't know.
He's got 6 senses.
I'll take people with 6-sided dicks for 500, Alex. All right. So moving on. This is a weird match. We're not entirely sure what it's doing here. I think it's so people can go pee after that Macho Man match. It's Genichiro Tenryu versus Koji Katao. I don't know. Versus Koji
Katao, yeah.
Versus Demolition, and this is Smash and Crush Demolition, which is inferior to Axe and Smash Demolition, who are here with Mr. Fuji. So we go from a really emotional high point of this WrestleMania to this. So there's a partnership or talent exchange going on with a Japanese promotion called Super World of Sports at this time.
Yeah.
And so WWF is bringing some people over. They're sending some folks over there. And that's kind of what's happening here. But it doesn't turn into much that's actually all that compelling to watch.
Eventually, what's going to happen is that WWF in March, like late March, sends all their big talent over to Japan, and they have massive card that happens there. We have Earthquake versus Koji Katao, I think, and like the Hart Foundation and Marty Gianetti actually have a match. So the Hart Foundation reunite for that tour of Japan. Ultimate Warrior fights Sergeant Slaughter over there too. Randy Savage has a match with George Takano, and the Road Warriors face off against Tenryu and Hulk Hogan there for the main event, which
Oh, wow.
sounds like a hell of a ass kicking. But anyway, let's focus back on this match.
Yeah, that might be. I wonder if that's out there on the interwebs somewhere.
The only video I can find of it is actually some other dudes talking over it, giving it a play-by-play review. But we probably could watch it on mute.
I would be moderately curious because that's some interesting combinations there.
Yeah, there is some interesting and impressive things that happen in this match. One, Crush picks up Katao. Katao's a pretty big guy. Crush just picks him up like he's just a bag of ice from 7-Eleven and slams him down. And then like Tenryu also power bombs Smash.
Yeah, that's how he gets the pin, right?
Right. Smash is a huge dude, and he picks him up for a power bomb. Like, damn. But then there's also a really weird spot where like Katao runs in to stop a double team while Smash is just holding Tenryu over his knee, waiting for Crush to climb the ropes. And like it's just like I think Smash holds Tenryu over his knee for like over a minute, just like waiting for the spot to happen.
He's asking him what he wants for Christmas.
Yeah, pretty much. I just noted down that this was a dud of a match, and it didn't help that it was Smash and Crush. It wasn't even Smash and Axe.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I looked up a little bit about these two Japanese stars. So Tenryu was a big star. He was a 5-time national champion. He was a legit like ranked sumo wrestler. He said he left the sport of sumo due to some personality clashes. You know, I think he had 2 long runs with All Japan Pro Wrestling from 77 to 90, and then again from 2000 to 2004. So you know, big time guy, right?
Yeah.
Katao was also a big deal in legit sumo, and he left in 1990 or so to become a pro wrestler. So those guys, you know, come with a lot of cred. I think, you know, the Japanese audiences certainly would have known them for sure. But right, that doesn't really translate. And I think again, like the timing is bad. You've got this huge emotional moment here, and then like everybody's just trying to like catch their breath and cool off, and they're like, all right, I'm just going to send these gigantic guys out to smash into each other now.
Yeah, this is an intermission match because like all those long promos before it too.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think they would have called Macho Man versus Ultimate Warrior a second main event if there had been like the Intercontinental title on the line or something like that in that match.
Yeah. Once again, Hulk Hogan's ego prevents us from having a main event that actually matters.
This also left me with the question of what exactly was Demolition's gimmick supposed to be?
Face paint
and leather? Like I'm not exactly
Spikes?
sure.
I don't know.
You know, bondage?
Well, but they're not
You
like
know?
sexy. They're not like sexy bondage. They're not like.
Are they gimps? Like I don't.
I don't know. I'm not enough into all the S&M. I'm just a simple man with a 6-sided penis. I don't.
Are they both subs? Like, is that what's
I don't know.
happening here while they're in the leather and bonded? And I don't know. Anyways,
yeah. Again, I don't know enough about the various subcultures to venture a guess, and I don't want to get myself canceled, so I'm not gonna even worry about it. So we come back from intermission and the intermission match to some promos leading up to this Big Boss Man versus Mr. Perfect match. And first up is the Big Boss Man with Mean Gene. He's got a few words for Bobby Heenan, who's hurt his mama's feelings, apparently. Throws in some law enforcement stuff. He says, Mr. Perfect's stay of execution is up, and he's going to be a perfect example that crime does not pay. Whatever, cop.
oh yeah, pig.
I didn't say that. He's got the Trader's flag on his uniform sleeve again. That might be the Georgia State flag still at this point.
Yeah, it is the Georgia State flag, but some of his earlier iterations of wrestling gear, it's just a straight up Confederate flag. But now he's got the Georgia flag, which at the time had a Confederate battle flag on it.
Yeah, they changed that in 2001 after lots and lots of upheaval. So a little, nothing like 125 years too late, but whatever. And then from there, we get Bobby Heenan and Mr. Perfect with Sean Mooney. Heenan calls us humanoids, which I always loved.
Listen here, humanoids.
He's so great. He's so great. He makes me have disdain for myself every time I hear a Bobby Heenan promo.
Why do you think he's wearing those gray rubber gloves?
I
guess he likes wearing gloves.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm still tripping over that line for some reason. Like me, Gorilla Monsoon just says no comeback for him ever.
Yeah, he was in they worked together so amazingly, but they were also just sort of in totally different spheres, all the time. It's really interesting that they were as good friends and partners on the air as they were when they're so different. So
it's sometimes they're not even talking to each other.
No. So this is the promo where Mr. Perfect references Rodney King a couple of times, which is a little too soon. He says about the big boss man, he says, "You won't find me on my back giving him 56 free swipes at me." And if you remember, that was the number of whacks that the LAPD took at Rodney King in that, the famous, unfortunate traffic stop.
I kind of feel like in today's culture, Mr. Perfect would be the face in this situation after saying something like that.
I guess. I don't know. It made me cringe a little bit.
Telling a cop that you're not going to hit me that many times, I think that's face stuff these days, at least in the liberal media.
Yeah. So you're saying Mr. Perfect was ahead of the curve on the defund the police thing? Is that what you're saying?
He could have been. I think that's a very good possibility here.
He'd be Kurt ACAB Hennig now. That'd be his gimmick. I don't know. So he ends that promo though by saying, "I am what I say I am," which is an amazing line, but also yikes.
Yeah, he's Mr. Perfect. That's all you need to know. And then when they come out to the ring, and Boss Man is so over, and it's very uncomfortable that it's a crowd full of people in LA waving foam nightsticks.
That's weird. It's not good.
It's so weird and uncomfortable, especially to watch it nowadays. But even then, I'd imagine it was kind of weird because you just watch Rodney King, and you got the police, LAPD on trial, and kind of the police everywhere on trial, and you got just people waving foam nightsticks around. So
read the room, man. Read the room.
It's a little weird.
Yeah. I remember Boss Man being so over back then, and I still don't understand it. I didn't understand it then, and I don't really understand it now. But yeah, so this is Big Boss Man, Mr. Perfect. Mr. Perfect has Bobby Heenan. This is for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. These guys, they start out by spitting in each other's face. So
yeah,
they're it's ugly right from the very start. So.
Yeah. And Boss Man wipes his ass with Mr. Perfect's towel and throws it back at him.
Yeah. And then Kurt takes a powder. He ducks out of the ring, but Boss Man follows him and gives him a slap. It flips him head over teacups.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
Yeah, Mr. Perfect always knew exactly when to oversell a shot to help put the other guy over, and that's one of them. Boss Man finally gets his hands on Perfect and just lays into him with one big shot, and Perfect just flips himself over from it. It's amazing.
Yeah. Unlike some other people we can mention, like Shawn Michaels, who just oversells all the time for everything and sucks. So just gratuitous shot at Shawn Michaels there. Nobody was asking for it.
Just out of nowhere.
I don't care. I need to work it into the conversation. So there's some really good moves here, mostly on the part of Mr. Perfect. It's maybe a little bit overdone on some of the selling, but it's incredible. There's a shot where he rams Perfect's head into the turnbuckle, and Mr. Perfect like bounces up and upside down again. And
Yeah, I
there's
mean, he's
there's
doing
so
a good
many.
job of making Boss Man look strong and very, very powerful. And this might have been the best big Boss Man match that we've seen, but it's not necessarily because of him, but the work that Mr. Perfect is putting in to help him. Boss Man pulls off his belt and starts whipping Mr. Perfect with it, and the ref does nothing.
He sees nothing.
And it's like not the first time that we've seen that in wrestling, right? Like Hulk Hogan would sometimes pull off his belt to whip his opponent. Cody Rhodes too, but like, why is that? Is that legal?
I don't know. It's
If it
definitely
is, why aren't all wrestlers wearing belts to the ring and they're just turning them into strap matches? And like, I don't get it.
it's a good question. I don't know. It's fair. Um, so the big oh shit moment for this match comes when Andre shows up. He's pissed at Heenan.
Yeah,
He
he
comes
comes
out
shuffling down to the
shuffling
ring.
down. Yeah, he stalks him around the ring at like 2.5 miles an hour. He's like, it's so slow. But you know what's really interesting is when he comes out. As soon as he comes out, like the fans are only watching Andre. Like there's all kinds of stuff going on in the ring, but like
Yeah.
everyone's head is turned and watching Andre.
Yeah, we miss a solid third of this match because the camera is also following Andre the entire time. God knows what Mr. Perfect and Boss Man are doing. There could have been like a massive frog splash happening in the ring or like something crazy, but we have no idea because Andre is just hogging the attention, and deservedly so because it's Andre the Giant, and we
Yeah.
hadn't seen him for a while.
There's some Kurt moves in there. They're like the lost minutes of the Watergate tapes, right? And the Nixon tapes. So it's just everybody's just it's out there somewhere, right? But this one kind of breaks down into chaos, so it ends in a schmoz. Boss Man almost gets the pin, and then Barbarian and Haku are also in Heenan's stable, come in and interfere. But at least Andre gets to drag Kurt out and beat him up outside the ring. There's
Yeah,
I don't
Andre's
know, it's kind of
laying
fun.
into him hard. Heavy duty blows on the Perfect there, but it keeps Mr. Perfect from also losing to Big Boss Man by pin, because in Boss Man's promo makes a big deal out of having beaten everybody in Heenan's stable except for Mr. Perfect, and Mr. Perfect's the last one he needed to do, and he gets denied that.
Yeah, that's an exciting end to that one, actually. So Boss Man kind of follows Andre up the aisle afterwards, and it's like, oh, what's going to happen? But he like just kind of spins him around, and then they shake hands, and yeah, I guess they're just two gigantic friends after that.
That moment really gave you an idea of just how freaking big Andre the Giant was, because like Big Boss Man's a big guy,
Yeah,
and there's Andre, and like Big Boss Man is like bending his neck at a 90-degree angle up to try and talk to Andre, and it's like a child talking to daddy. Like it's
yeah. You can tell it's kind of a nice little moment because you can tell it kind of like means maybe a lot to Ray, Big Boss Man, because
yeah.
he would have like sort of been the generation after Andre, right? So he would have been like a guy that he watched, and
Yeah,
there he is getting to work with him, which is cool.
he's actually still kind of young. Like I remember hearing Cornette talk about how quickly Ray just shot up from being Big Bubba and like the bodyguard for Jim Cornette in NWA to suddenly just over big time somehow as the Big Boss Man, just out of nowhere. It was a meteoric rise of him, but then it kind of plateaued at this point. So
See, all it took was slapping that trader's flag on his arm, and then white people just flipped for it.
well, I mean, this was like the time period that like everything Southern was cool, right?
Yeah,
Like we had come out of trucker culture being awesome and phased into just general Southern culture
yeah.
being
Dukes of
awesome.
Hazzard.
Right?
I kind of wish trucker culture would come back.
No, you don't. Not today's trucker culture.
Well, yeah, probably not. Probably not. I'm just thinking more of like the talking on the CBs and dodging Smokey. Is that
Yeah,
a thing?
calling out speed traps.
Yeah, is that still a thing? I don't know.
Google Maps does it. You can report speed traps on Google Maps.
So Google Maps is into trucker culture these days. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Nice. All right. There's time for the obligatory celebrity, in quotes, guests at the ringside. There's a certain former president there who looks like a pile of garbage. The other guests ringside are Chuck Norris, Henry Winkler, and Lou Ferrigno. Henry Winkler is super glad that the Ultimate Warrior won. He seems to be having a great time.
Yeah.
I
Ferrigno
love-
seemed like he was ready to beat the crap out of everybody. Like he's ready to get in the ring, call it out, do it.
I love that guy. He's the hero of Pumping Iron, and Arnold is definitely the heel of that movie if you haven't watched it lately.
Oh, yeah. It's been a while, but I do have some memories of some things to it.
Yeah.
And that certain president is like begging to have WrestleMania come back to Atlantic City to be in his venue on the boardwalk. Chuck Norris is just name dropping, just naming random people. Yeah, the Fonz is super happy that the Ultimate Warrior won.
Henry Winkler's into it. We just started watching Barry. Have you watched that show?
No.
It's got the dude from SNL. I'm not going to remember his name right at the moment because I'm terrible at this. Who's a hitman, and he moves out to he goes out to LA for a job and ends up in an acting class that's run by Henry Winkler, who is friggin' incredible. So you would like it because I know you're a big Henry Winkler fan.
Yeah, I enjoyed him in that. What was that? I can't remember the name of it now. That reality show that was like him and William Shatner and Terry Bradshaw going to like god awful vacations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that show was very entertaining.
He's a mensch. Bill Hader is the main actor in Barry.
That's it.
So anyway,
he was also great in Children's Hospital. I don't know if you ever watched that weird show on
show's
Cartoon
nuts.
Network. Yeah.
Very uncomfortable. All right, next up, we've got Earthquake with Jimmy Hart versus Greg the Hammer Valentine. One of my personal faves, but obviously it's not going to go well for him here.
No, Greg Valentine's basically going to be a jobber in this match. But Greg does throw some nasty looking punches in this match. He's just laying into Earthquake, but it doesn't have any phase on him.
Yeah, he goes with those elbows that were always so good, but he still can't crack that melon. I wrote that Earthquake's Rumble music at the start is still so good.
Yeah.
It's not quite, Undertaker jaw-dropping, but it's a lot of fun.
And this is part of Earthquake's meteoric rise to challenge Hogan, right?
Yeah, he went through like a just monster heel run.
Yeah.
He just like squashed basically everybody. He picks Greg up like a bag of sugar and just like power slams him. Like it doesn't even look like it phases him.
Yeah, there was no effort to it. It was just whoop, whoop, boom, boom. There you go. Put him down.
Hammer goes into an ill-advised attempt to put the figure 4 on, but like Earthquake's legs are like the size of tree trunks, so there's no way.
Earthquake did do a really great slow back bump. Like he sells really well that like Greg is slowly working him down. The Hammer's going to get him, and it's just like chopping away at him, and it's a really convincing like monster moment for him. I thought that was a really great sequence of events of like the Hammer pounding away, bouncing off the ropes into him and stuff like that, trying to get Earthquake down, and finally does, but it didn't matter. Greg probably's got like 4 broken ribs after this match after taking that Earthquake finisher.
Yeah, R.I.P. Greg Sternum. I'll have to ask him about his sternum if we get to see him at Celebrity Fest in a couple of weeks. The other thing I wanted to note here is in April of 1991, we had talked about the 2 Japanese stars before this, Tenryu and Kitao. And some people know that John Tenta actually was a honest-to-God sumo wrestler for a little bit before he went into professional wrestling. And so he went over for a Super World of Sports program to Japan, and he was supposed to face Kitao, and they sort of were not really working with each other. They wouldn't sell each other's shots. And so afterwards, Kitao grabs the mic, kicks the referee, gets disqualified, and grabs the mic and starts just shooting on the Earthquake and on the audience, telling him that John Tenta could never beat him for real, and that wrestling is fake, and the other wrestlers all kind of grab him and take the mic away from him, and actually led to Catal being fired from Super World of Sport. Sounds like a crazy. I don't know if there's video out there or not, but I would
There
be
has to be
fascinated.
video of that.
Yeah.
There has to be something on YouTube showing that. I need to see that immediately.
That's great. It's crazy. So, all right. So next up, we've got the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, formerly known as the Road Warriors, of course, versus Power and Glory, which is Paul Roma and Hercules, with Slick as their manager. Hercules is a stalwart of the first, I don't know, half dozen, 7 or 8 WrestleManias. He's in every one of them. Never doing anything particularly interesting, but he's there. So, what do you think?
It was very interesting to see a squash tag match. The Road Warriors beat the shit out of Power and Glory, basically. Animal catches Paul Roma in midair off the ropes and turns it into a power slam, and then picks him up and hoists him into the Doomsday device. Like, just an all-out magnificent display of strength out of Animal. Hawk neutralizes a double team at the very start of the match. The whole thing about this match was that like Power and Glory cost the Legion of Doom a chance at the titles or something like that at this pay-per-view. Wow, look at them, having tag team storylines. That's something we don't see today.
No.
And then you have this payoff match of the Road Warriors, Legion of Doom,
Come on, man,
running over Power and Glory, just fucking destroying them. And I couldn't be happier to see it happen.
yeah. The Hawk and they're just so damn strong. Like, and we noted that in the Chi-Town Rumble show, and some other clips we watched of them, like just beating the holy hell out of people in tag team matches. So yeah, no, that one's real quick. It makes a lot of sense for it to be quick. I'm glad it's here, but there's not much to see.
Yeah, because it is fun to see the Legion of Doom work a real match, but it's also fun just to see them beat the shit out of some people, especially Hercules.
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing against Hercules. He's not with us anymore. I was not a huge Hercules fan, but man, they were insistent on pushing him at this time and making sure that we all saw him on all 7 of the first WrestleManias. Alrighty, next up is Virgil with Roddy Piper in his corner versus the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. This was a fantastic feud back in the day. You guys remember that Virgil was Ted's valet. He was sort of his manservant. He kind of got treated like crap most of the time, and finally Virgil has had enough, and he's going to get Roddy Piper to help him beat it out of Ted.
This is really the peak of Virgil's WWF career. This is it for him. Nothing really comes of him after this, and it's kind of sad. And eventually it leads to him meeting me at the Arundel Mills Mall.
Man, how far he's fallen.
Helping a guy run a baseball card table during a trade show that was happening at the mall. I didn't even realize that he was there. There was no real advertisement, and I didn't know that there was a trade show going on. I was just there to like buy some new shoes or something, and I walked by this card table. I was like, "Hey, you're Virgil, aren't you?" He's like, "Yeah, man." We talked for like 5 minutes, and
was he cool?
Yeah, he was pretty cool. And then took off. I didn't get an autograph. I don't think I got an autograph. I didn't get anything. I talked to Virgil for a couple minutes and then went off to buy my shoes.
So it wasn't even like, come meet Virgil. It was like, hey, Virgil was helping me sell my baseball card stash.
Yeah, I feel like that, like the guy hired Virgil to be like a draw to the table thing, but like I guess you needed to already be like following or knowing of that card store to know that Virgil was going to be there doing it. So just happened to walk by. It's like, hey, you're Virgil.
That's crazy. Yeah, he's super ripped here, and he can actually work all right. He was in and around wrestling for quite a long time before he sort of got that kind of big thing with Ted DiBiase, and of course he just basically stood there in a glittery sleeveless suit for I don't know, 2 years. It seemed like a long time.
Yeah, that was a really, really long story with him. And then we get a meh match out of it, which is sad. Like there's
Yeah.
no Dibiase wins this by count out. So there's no payoff to it. The match is slow. Virgil is throwing like these weird, like Muhammad Ali esque, like dancing, punching, and it's just like the only thing I could think of was like, well, that's where Shane McMahon learned how to throw his ring punches.
Oh no. Yeah. Ted bumps like crazy for him.
Yeah,
He's just slapping himself all over the ring.
yeah, and it's kind of weird too that like this is like Virgil like breaking free, but he actually doesn't come to the ring until he's called to the ring by Piper and has no theme music. So it's not like he's like has his own identity. It's just another white guy is now calling him down to the ring instead of Ted DiBiase. So it kind of still felt weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wasn't sure what to think about this match either. In theory, it could have
Yeah.
been really good. So Ted DiBiase is, we've talked about this before. He's an amazing worker. He came out of Georgia Championship Wrestling. He was just really incredible. Very polished, very, a long tenured veteran. And he's got he's got it all down, right? Virgil is, again, he holds his own here, I'd say. Heenan makes a funny comment that says Virgil looks like George Foreman on Nutrisystem.
Yeah.
That's during his sort of fake boxing moves.
Yeah.
Piper kind of gets involved here. There's one moment that I really kind of liked where Piper's on the outside and he reaches up with his crutch and pulls the rope down so that Ted flips over the top rope. I thought that was
Yeah.
actually a pretty creative spot.
Yeah. And then after the match, like Piper ends up like laying like down and like he's not letting anybody help him up. And then Virgil has to get on the microphone and is like yells at Piper to stop feeling sorry for himself and to get up. It doesn't matter that your whatever's broken or whatever. Just get up, and Piper gets up.
Thus leading to Mike Virgil Jones's career as a motivational speaker at the Arundel Mills Mall. I do enjoy his Twitter and his obsession with the Olive Garden's breadsticks and meat sauce.
Yes.
I don't know if it's a work or if he's like legit crazy. I don't know that I really care. I'm glad that it exists. My one more thought about this is this whole thing to make us think that Piper's not a big old racist? Because he's like hanging out with a black guy here. Because like he's had some problematic moments with black superstars going way back.
It's possible, and especially when I don't know if you remember from that Table for Three episode with him and Paul Orndorff, he talks about how one, he was already catching shit then for doing that half blackface thing against Bad News Brown in that promo, but then also apparently they switched the makeup remover with something else that made it semi-permanent on his face, and he had to walk around for several days
Oh no,
with a half black face.
that's not good.
No.
Well, that'll teach him. So there's another one of these weird, like, just shoved in matches here. We've noted this in a few WrestleManias. We've got the Mountie with Jimmy Hart versus Tito Santana, America's National Treasure. This makes me a little bit depressed because Tito is buried way down in this car in this kind of weird spot. And there's just, I don't know, there's some botches here and it just doesn't really go anywhere. And it's not really meant to. It's just sort of like, I don't know, it's just to fill the time. Get everybody one last pee break before the main event. I'm not sure what's happening here.
Yeah, I don't know if this was supposed to be a little bit more, because I think I talked about it in the blog that there's like some nasty botches and they just want to, and so they just try to wrap it up and someone might be hurt or something, that it didn't feel like the real ending. But really the only thing I could think about the entire time was like, why would a Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer carry a cattle prod?
I thought Canada was so much more civilized than here.
I don't understand it. Why is a cattle prod like his thing? And why did we just accept it back then? That was like, oh, well, he's a Canadian Mountie. Of course he has a cattle prod.
Well, you don't know what they get up to up there. There's moose, there's Sasquatches. They got to be ready for anything.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's red, and so it matches his uniform. Maybe that's why we just openly accepted it, but it really makes no sense. Like, I don't believe any law enforcement, except for maybe a Texas Ranger, would carry a cattle prod. But yeah.
My other question is, what took them so long to get Big Boss Man and the Mountie into a feud? Because you've got two cops, you've got American and Canadian, you've got red and blue, all the elements are there. This is it's a classic. And here he is wasting Tito Santana's time.
Yeah, and then they just pay it off with a 4-on-4 tag gimmick match. So yeah. And then, but yeah, they just bury Tito Santana here, which, if you can't tell, has really depressed me.
We love Tito Santana. Tito, call us. You're welcome on the show anytime.
Absolutely.
You're our favorite.
You're just welcome at my house anytime. You don't even need to come on the show. Just come hang out. I got a Nintendo Switch. We'll have fun.
Yeah, Rich has a nice house. He's got a nice little patio. You'll have a good time. All right, let's stop being weird. Get to the main event. Hulk Hogan is fighting Sergeant Slaughter. Sergeant Slaughter has General Adnan in his corner. This is the WWF Championship match. This is also going to decide the future of peace in the Middle East. Alex Trebek is our guest ring announcer. Regis Philbin is our guest commentator. Marla Maples is our guest timekeeper. So clearly we're pulling out all the stops.
Both Hogan and Slaughter cut promos before this, and both of them have genius lines. Slaughter keeps calling people pukamaniacs.
Nice.
I just love that phrase so much. Yeah, pukamaniacs. Oh, so good. And then Hogan ends his promo with, Slaughter will be a victim of Twilight's last creaming.
What? Oh, how did I miss that? I feel like I would have written that down if I had heard it.
Yeah, he does the whole by dawn's early light, and then Slaughter will be a victim of Twilight's last creaming. Like, it's nasty. It's kind of it's not witty at all, but
No,
it's a fun twist on the words anyway.
It doesn't make any sense. Like he's gonna cream him, right? Like he's gonna beat him up. Like, I'm gonna cream that guy. But okay. Yeah. I'm a little confused. There's a kid in the front row who has a dot matrix printout that says Hulkamania lives, which I really liked. It's in color, so that means he probably used colored pencils, because I don't think they had colored dot matrix printers. I don't remember them anyway.
They were extremely expensive, so yeah, he totally just colored that in for himself. And I hope that thing is on eBay for $1,000. That's because that's a beautiful relic of the time.
It's
a
primo.
Hulkamania sign printed on dot matrix feeder paper. It's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty.
Yeah, and you have video evidence to prove that it's real.
Right.
So
this would be a good time to talk about Sergeant Slaughter's history in the WWF. It's like a Mandela effect of people having these fond memories of Sergeant Slaughter being a great good guy and American hero. And Slaughter really wasn't that in WWF. And seems people have just forgotten. And so, he's even at WrestleMania 20, which we just reviewed, the Hall of Fame ceremony that he's inducted, they introduce him as Sergeant Slaughter, American hero. So that's not the truth. Slaughter is probably the second biggest heel in WWF history, generating heat compared to the Iron Sheik. So this was Slaughter's third run in the WWF. So his first run, he was a heel and was pursuing Bob Backlund, and he was big time. And then he left, and then he came back in 1984, going after Bob Backlund again. But then he did turn face briefly to pursue the Iron Sheik. But Hulk Hogan was chosen to be the top face over top of Sergeant Slaughter at the time. And so Slaughter actually hit the road, not being willing to be second billing to Hulk Hogan on the face thing. Supposedly there was also some sort of disagreement that Vince was keeping Sergeant Slaughter from participating in the G.I. Joe cartoon and toy line. That also pushed Slaughter out the door so he could pursue that, which I think is smart because, I mean, that's a paycheck until the end of time.
Yeah. Now that I definitely have read and heard
Yeah.
before. And that was brilliant because he was on a freaking Saturday morning cartoon, and those action figures and all the play sets and stuff. I'm sure he still gets money from that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. He has to be. And if he hadn't done that, he would have just been buried underneath Hulk Hogan because all the faces were just buried under Hulk Hogan.
Right.
And so this is his third return to WWF, and he's an Iraqi sympathizer. And even after losing this match, him and Hogan continue to go at it, and then eventually he comes back to being an American, but he never really has a face turn here or anything like that. So for the large majority of Sergeant Slaughter's time in WWF on screen, in ring, he's a heel and he's anti-American. Because, I mean, Bob Backlund was Mr. America, boy next door, good guy wrestler. He's put up against Hulk Hogan here. And then he had a brief thing with the Iron Sheik, but he lost, to the Iron Sheik, only so that Hogan can beat the Iron Sheik. So people have this fake memory of Sergeant Slaughter being the good guy, and it's kind of crazy to me. And we saw it like put on full display at WrestleMania 20. And even now, if you follow his Twitter, he's calling his followers maggots and stuff like that, which is so he's a heel, and people just won't accept it at this point. They don't want to remember it. They're too young to remember him in the ring. They might only remember him in the cartoon, where he was obviously on G.I. Joe side and not on Cobra.
Right. I kind of think that's where people's sort of memories are sort of fixed on him as a hero, right? As like a heroic soldier. Yeah, no, that's really interesting stuff. Thanks for digging that up. I'm actually just looking at the WWE's sort of bio of Sergeant Slaughter, where they call him a former U.S. Marine who proudly served his country, which I am almost certain is not the case. Robert Remus is his real name, of course. I may even need to let's do Wikipedia here.
Is this the gimmick of Slaughter is that he was a U.S. Marine who fought in Vietnam.
Right.
Yeah, his Wikipedia makes no mention of his actual military service.
Yeah, I always thought that was the case, actually. So it's interesting that even their bio now, like,
well, they got to maintain the gimmick to work.
I guess, but it presents it as a fact. It says it was not until this is reading from WWE.com/superstars/Sergeant Slaughter. It was not until 6 years after his professional debut that Remus decided to incorporate his status as a United States Marine Corps veteran and debut in WWE in 1980 as the brutal, bullying drill instructor Sergeant Slaughter, who referred to his outmatched opponents as scum, slime, and maggots.
So there is an article from the Marine Corps Times from 2020 calling him out. It says, the man behind pro wrestling legend Sergeant Slaughter tells stories of combat tours in Vietnam, but he never served.
Oh, man. So this is fascinating. This is like, so WWE has largely given up on kayfabe, like they sort of openly say, well, these are performers, these are performing a role. They're, sometimes they call them superstars, right? They don't call them wrestlers anymore, but they usually don't call them actors, but in a sense they're sort of admitting that that's what it is, they're characters. But here they're sort of presenting this as if it were a real thing. So, but even here though, it says in less than 1 year with WWE, so this would have been 1980, 1981, Slaughter was doing battle with legends like Bruno Sammartino, who's a face, Pedro Morales, was Pedro a face? Probably. Pat Patterson, and even Andre the Giant. So he was definitely healing it up back then. He wrestled Ricky the Dragon Steamboat in the NWA for the U.S. Championship in 81, another face. So yeah, you're 100% correct. Like, it's fascinating though. Like I said, I think
Yeah.
the power of that cartoon and that action figure and that image is really what has kind of fixed him as a hero.
Yeah, so here's an excerpt from that Marine Corps Times article. In early 2019, on the Jim Norton and Sam Roberts radio show on Sirius XM, the 71-year-old Remus, decked out in camouflage, his Smokey the Bear cover adorned with a sparkly gold band, regaled his hosts about his 2 Marine combat tours in Vietnam before he started wrestling. "What did you do over there?" co-host Jim Norton asked near the beginning of the February 18th, 2019 segment. "I was basically just infantry, you know. Just making sure all the grunts didn't AWOL on us. Keep them all in line," Remus said. "Were you messed up when you came back?" Norton asked. "A lot of people, it took a while to shake it off." "Well, we didn't really talk about it much," Remus answered. "We weren't acknowledged as being heroes or anything like that, so we never talked about it, and there's a lot of bad experiences, and did a lot of things I normally wouldn't have done unless I was ordered to do it." But Remus never served in the Marine Corps, according to government records.
That's fascinating. So not even just, it's like, oh yeah, I was a military guy, but like kind of making up stories about it. That's strange.
Yeah, so he's basically being accused of stolen valor. And like, then here's something here. The founder of SoCal Uncensored California Wrestling news site, that it looks bad, especially since WWE uses him for veterans events. So yeah, this is
All right, deep
it's
dive.
a 100% gimmick.
There's that quote from, I think it's Nathaniel Hawthorne, who says, "No man can wear one face to himself and another to the world without finally getting bewildered as to which is which." I'm probably bastardizing that a little bit, but maybe that's the case. He's been the Sarge for so long, he's not even sure anymore.
What is it? When the legend becomes fact, print the legend.
Yeah. Trading all the good quotes over here. Look at us, a couple
Yeah.
of literary studs. So,
We're
anything you want
librarians.
to? we do research on the air.
I cited my sources.
This is going to be the least popular episode we've ever done.
Nah, Nick's gonna love it.
Just, oh right, yeah, we were doing this for Nick. Nick, we sure hope you love Sergeant Slaughter research. If not, skip this a little bit. So anything, what this match? This match is 20 minutes, which is too long for a Hulk Hogan match. Sergeant Slaughter does a lot of sort of the typical heel. He does the Ric Flair kind of begging on his knees thing. They're in and out of the ring. There's some choking with TV cables. He gets Hogan in a Boston Crab that goes on forever. Hogan gets some color. It's at one point, does that spazzing thing that we've talked about, makes us a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then finally the Hawk up, of course.
Slaughter's really bad at swinging the chair. It looks so bad. But I didn't hate this match as much as the first time I watched it. But I mean, it is American nationalism in a microcosm here. And the crowd is just fucking nuts. It's so high pitched still. Like, and it's taken to 11 at this point. It's because Hulk Hogan's now out, which is basically what everybody's just been waiting for at this point.
The high pitched squealing is actually Chuck Norris in the front row.
It's possible.
That's a sound he makes when he gets excited.
Regis makes a really great point actually on commentary. He points out that Hogan isn't grabbing the ropes to get out of the Boston Crab, even though he's like right there.
Right there, yeah.
I guess it's part of the storytelling where America doesn't just take the easy way out. He's got to muscle out of it. He's got to show his strength to get out. And like Slaughter tries to pin Hogan with the Iraqi flag between them at one point, and that triggers Hogan's Hulk up, and he tears the Iraqi flag to shreds. And then it's 3 punches, a big boot, and leg drop.
He gets some serious air on that leg drop.
Yeah.
He was propelled by the spirit of America into the air, and the crowd loses its damn mind. And then, of course, we go into the obligatory pose down. A little bit more blood than usual on the pose down, but that's wraps up nicely. And democracy is safe once again.
After a match that probably lasted longer than the ground war in Iraq on this first try. I did have some questions. How does a back rake hurt?
I think it would feel good.
Right. It looks like something that would oh, thank you. Yeah, that helped loosen up my deltoids a little bit. Thank you. That felt good.
That spot has been itchy since 1984.
Can you do it again, Hulk? But he does it. He does it all the time.
Don't they sell stuff at Sharper Image that's like just for that sort of thing?
I know. Like Brookstone sells chairs that does it.
All this years, you should have just had Hulk Hogan come to your house and take care of it for you.
I know. This match is a cartoon. It's not real. There's Slaughter doesn't do anything. Hogan doesn't do anything, but yet it's 20 minutes. And I can't sit here and tell you a single real thing that happened except for the Boston Crab that Hogan doesn't use the ropes to get out of. Slaughter uses a chair at some point, and it's not a good chair swing at all. It's not convincing.
It's no Rock on Ken Shamrock, that's for sure.
Oh my! There is no chair shot like that chair shot.
That's the gold. That's the gold standard.
Yeah, that's the platinum standard.
With diamonds.
But it is spectacular at the ending when Gorilla Monsoon announces that the war is now officially over.
Yeah.
He ends it.
Thank
We're
God,
waiting
Gorilla.
for Gorilla Monsoon to call the end to hostilities. But little did they know that Slaughter and Hogan would keep fighting for another 6 months. And they would go on to have Desert Storm matches, they would call them. They're basically no holds barred matches, but and then Bobby Heenan announces that he'll still have his celebratory party Tuesday night, even though Slaughter didn't win. And Gorilla just tells him, "Who cares?" And then that's the end of the show.
There's a funny bit about him inviting Regis to that one, and Regis is like, "I'm busy Tuesday night." It happens earlier in the match. All right, so I think democracy is safe once again. So are we ready to pick our best and worst for this one?
Yeah, I guess so.
I'll go first while you think about it. How's that? My best match is Macho Man versus the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. So Randy Savage is working his ass off there. Sherry is the MVP of the entire WrestleMania for her performance in that match. There's five, count them, 5 flying elbows in a row from the Macho Man. This match is a symphony and a soap opera all wrapped up into one. So that's my pick.
Yeah, I think that's going to be my pick too. And it's 10 times a more compelling story than Hogan Slaughter. There's a lot more on the line. It's not just a showcase match. There's story here, and there is storytelling, and everything that can happen in a wrestling match happens in this match. And it's really all on the genius of Macho Man and Sherry.
What's your worst match for this one?
I'm really divided between Dino Bravo versus Texas Tornado and Tito Santana versus the Mountie. And I think I'm going to have to go with Dino Bravo versus Texas Tornado just because it was a sloppy match, and it was over before it began, and it was this weird and wasn't a good showing for Von Erich in WWF, and it wasn't a good showing of what Dino Bravo can do. Meanwhile, I think that really the Tito Santana Mountie thing should have been a promo and a backstage jump instead of any kind of actual real in-ring action. And so that's why I think I'm going to go with Dino Bravo versus Texas Tornado being the worst match.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That's a respectable pick. I can't pick the Tito Santana one just because it has Tito Santana in it, and I'm going to actually pick the sort of the filler match right after the Macho Man match with Demolition versus the two Japanese guys, while they fully expect half of the crowd to be in the concession stand lines. It's just kind of, I get that you need filler sometimes, but it's just, there's nothing there. My oh shit moment for this one is Randy's 5 flying elbows in a row. It's insane. So he goes up twice. You're like, oh, that's a good touch. He's going to hit his finisher a second time. And then he runs up those ropes again, and then again, and then again. And the elbows, they just keep coming, and they're all beautiful. They don't get sloppy.
No.
They're all perfectly executed. And so I said, oh shit. So I may have said it 3 or 4 times actually.
That's a good pick. Because Macho Man's a freaking maniac. I think I have two oh shit moments. They're kind of tied. And like the first one is Andre showing up, Andre rolling out, and just steamrolling and chasing Heenan and eventually catching Mr. Perfect and pounding on him. I love anytime Andre the Giant shows up. I love Andre. And then for him to show up like this, it was spectacular because I don't think anybody was legitimately expecting Andre to come out at that point to confront anybody. But then my second one, Twilight's Last Creaming. Hogan got me with that one.
Oh my god! Yeah, it gets funnier every time you say it. Actually.
I know. Listen here, brother. You're going to be a victim of Twilight's Last Creaming.
Sweet Jesus! Oh man! All right, let's move on. I don't have anything else to say. So what's your overall rating for this one?
I like this one a little bit more than the last time we watched it, but it's still not good enough to move up, just because it felt like every match except for Macho Man versus Warrior could have been a little bit better, if that makes sense. Like Perfect and Boss Man could have been a bit better. Demolition versus those Japanese guys definitely could have been better. Like some of the best moments and memorable moments out of this whole WrestleMania is like the promos, right? Undertaker measuring Regis for his burial suit and coffin, the Pukamaniacs and Twilight's Last Creaming, and
Stop saying that.
Twilight's Last Creaming, and then there's the Twilight's Last Creaming, but yeah, and the Stink in the Pink promo from the Nasty Boys, like and even a fool knows a man only has 5 senses, but a snake has 6. We always do it best in the dark. Like the best stuff is happening outside of the ring in this WrestleMania.
The more you talk, the filthier this WrestleMania sounds, honestly.
Sherry and the fallacious pose. Honestly, it could have just been like a 1-hour episode of like Superstars of just all these promos killing you instead of any of these matches. Because legitimately, the only match that people really remember out of this one is Macho Man versus Ultimate Warrior, because it's probably Ultimate Warrior's best match. And then Slaughter and Hogan, and that's just because Slaughter is such a heel that it makes this match memorable, not the actual action in the match, because the match is kind of even on Hulk Hogan standards. So I think I'm gonna lean towards like a 3. Like it's a little bit better than halfway, but it's it's problematic just because also like the celebrities in this one are B-list guys at this point. So
yeah. So when we did this for the blog, I gave this a 4.5. I don't know what I was smoking. I must have been caught up in the...
You love Willie Nelson, so...
I do love Willie Nelson. I was caught up in the patriotism and the Twilight's Last Creaming, clearly. So the things that I like about it is that the Gulf War stuff is a really interesting time capsule, right? If you ask somebody to kind of describe what was going on during that Persian Gulf War, I very clearly remember my 8th grade history teacher kind of talking to us about it, and we would bring in newspapers and kind of talk about what's going on, and it was very rah rah USA. It was like so it's interesting. It doesn't make for good wrestling necessarily, but it's, as a cultural artifact, it's useful. Yeah, there's a couple of excellent matches. Macho and Warrior. The squash with Earthquake makes sense and even lets Hammer show off a little bit. I love Greg the Hammer. That emotional reunion with Elizabeth, the MVP performance from Sherry, Mr. Perfect working his ass off, the surprise Andre the Giant appearance, Jake versus Martel, I kind of liked. The cons for this one are that the pace is just really oddball. It kind of like it peaks early at that intermission point with Macho Man and then never really recovers. The dumb sort of underwhelming main event, a bad match for Tito, the demolition intermission match. So, yeah, I'm definitely not in the 4.5 neighborhood like I was then. That was peak pandemic. I had been home for a long time.
We were just happy to see something.
Yeah, you could have shown me anything on TV. I would, oh yeah, absolutely, 4.5 out of 5. I think 3 is actually fair. But I'm glad that we went back and revisited it. It was definitely worth rewatching. So thanks again to Nick for suggesting it. Again, if you want to reach out to us, it's allthewrestlemanias.com. You can find us on Twitter at WrestleManiaPod. You can send us an email at allthewrestlemanias@gmail.com. And I did want to mention here before we wrap up that the theme music for this episode is our special retro 8-bit version that Rich has been hard at work on since we did going back to the 90s here. We thought it'd be nice to have a retro theme to go along with it. So nice work on that to Rich. You can send us a comment, let us know if you like it. We've got a couple of other versions in the can, so stay tuned. We also have a YouTube channel, and we always upload our variations on our theme song to the YouTube channel. So just look for All the WrestleManias. You can find it, you can listen, can leave us a comment. Rich would really appreciate it. So all right, the last thing that we want to do, as always, is we pay tribute to the men and women that we've seen in that WrestleMania who are no longer with us. So our in memoriam segment for this WrestleMania includes Andre the Giant, Animal from Legion of Doom, Pallbearer, Big Boss Man, Dino Bravo, Crush of Demolition, Earthquake John Tenta, Howard Finkel, Lord Alfred Hayes, Hawk from Legion of Doom, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Hercules, Koji Katao, Joey Morello, who is Gorilla Monsoon's son, who is a referee in this WrestleMania, Queen Sherry Martel, MVP of this WrestleMania, Miss Elizabeth, Gorilla Monsoon, Mr. Fuji, Mr. Perfect Kirk Hennig, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Mean Gene Okerlund, Regis Philbin, Rowdy Piper, Randy Macho Man Savage, British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich, Alex Trebek, and the Ultimate Warrior. So thanks once again for joining us today on All the WrestleManias. I am your co-host, Tim Hackman.
And I'm Rich Sigwald.
Saying so long, everybody.